Welcome to UserAndI, the channel where I explore all things UX and UI design, and today we're going to be recreating a custom shape that I created in Figma, but we'll be doing it in Adobe XD. So here's the design. Here's a sign up screen I made a while ago. It's currently on my YouTube channel. You can check the full design. So what's pretty much happening here is that we've got the logo of the fictitious brand. We've got a skip button which saves our users from having to go through all of the sign up screen process, and we've got a few custom shapes in which I've embedded a few images here. We've got some text down below, and we've got a carousel slides here that show us how many that we've got to go through. And here's our custom shape, so that's what we're going to be recreating. So how would we go about that? I mean, we can go through it in two ways. We can either do it using the pen tool, or we can do it using custom shapes and then merging them together and then editing them. But I think the cleanest way is using the pen tool, so we're going to be using that today. So first we will start with a rectangle. And the reason why I'm starting with a rectangle is because the shape is predominantly a rectangle. It really just has one tiny area that isn't. So we'll start there. And then we're going to go back to the arrow tool and double click, and what that does is that it gives us the points of the shape, which allows us to pretty much edit how this shape looks. If you click and drag one point, you can see we can pretty much change it however we want. But what we want to do is actually create this curvature here, and this takes some practice, but it's pretty simple to do once you figure out how this works. And this works with all custom shapes as well. We're going to be working with angles, anchor points, and we're going to be tweaking those. So the way I see this shape here is that we have 3 points. We've got this point here, we've got this point here, and we've got this point here. And one of those points, the one in the middle, is pulled out. So I'm going to go ahead and add one there, and then as you can see, it's just a point. But what we can now do is, if we double click that, if you see, we get these lines here. And we can start dragging that in and out, and that will change the curve of it. I'm going to undo that because what we need is 2 more. And as you can see again, it gives us 2 points. But what it's done here is that it's made those points independent. So I'm going to undo that movement now, and what I'll do is I'll double click that, which takes away the edges, and I'll double click it again, and it gives us the full length now, right? So I'll undo that. So we've got 1 point here, we've got 1 point here, and we want 1 more. So I'll put that in the middle, double click that again, and then double click it. And now what we can start doing is pulling that shape out to give us our curvature. That's pretty much what we are looking for. Now, what we can do is start to pull this bit out a little bit, just to get the right amount of curve that we want as we pull the shape out. And if you click, and so for example, what I'm doing here is that if you click on 1 point and then you tap the left arrow and the right arrow, you can rotate that anchor point, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to click back onto the central one, and I'm going to pull the shape out just a little bit more. So it looks close to it, not exactly where we want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up a little bit, and then I'm going to move this down a little bit. And that's starting to look a lot more like it, to be honest. So what I'm going to do is select them all and move them down, just because they are all on the lower half and this looks more central. And a pretty cool thing about that is that you can pretty much select all the points using shift, and then whilst holding shift you click and drag down and it will drag it in a straight line. So that's pretty much our shape. Now we're missing one key component, which is this chevron here. So I'm going to go and find that in our plugins. It's not the exact one because we did make it in a different program. Here we have our chevron, and I'm just going to plot that, if it will let me select it. And I'll make that white. That's more or less our shape. And what I'll do now is just merge them in just a little bit, because what we've got is a sliver and then this bit pops up. And as you're starting to see, it's not exactly perfect. So what I'm going to do actually is bring these in by 2. That was holding shift and then the up arrow and the down arrow. Go back in and tweak that just by 1. And nudge that out a bit. And nudge that in a bit more. Yep, I'm happy with that. So that's how I would create that shape in Adobe XD. And you can play around with it to get it as perfect as you want. I don't personally feel this is as perfect as it is in the design, but it's more or less there, and we can tweak this to get where we want to get to. So what I'll do is I'll drag these and components up a bit, and we're getting a lot closer now, so there we go. I'm going to leave that one there. So let me know how you get on with the pen tool. There's just so many different designs you can make with it. There's so many different examples, there's so many different things, there's so many ideas we can possibly make with it. Let me know if this has helped you in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next episode.